Namaskar, everybody. Welcome to Escorts online channel, ETDC. And this is episode 2 on crop production technology. With me, I have Mr. R. Madhavan, who is an engineer and also an agri expert. So, Madhavan sir, over to you on the episode 2.
Namaskar. I'm happy to be back again with episode 2. Today we are going to discuss about fertilizer. Fertilizer is nothing but plant food. We have to understand in that way. Plant also have to eat to perform. So any organism needs balanced diet for its optimum performance. So here the medium is going to be, or rather the plate is going to be soil on which the nutrients are applied, or on which the nutrients are made available for the crop's performance. I'm going to request Mr. Harshavardhan to show me a chart just for a while for your understanding. I don't want to go too much in chemistry and conduct a chemistry class. This is just to tell you, like human being, you please refer the chart. I put 3 columns. Primary element. When I say primary, it needs large quantity. When I say secondary, the second one which is in the middle is needed in a lesser amount but very much essential. And then micro elements in a very small elements amount, but still it is needed. So these 3, if you really go, just reading the names, the same name is available for your tablets which you could take every day as multivitamin prescribed by the doctor. So that means these minerals, whether they are primary, secondary, micro, are all the elements needed for us also. That means these things have to be in the soil for us to get it when we eat the product. Otherwise, those products not only have the less nutritional value, but also shelf life. I'm coming to that, it's a very important one. What is a shelf life? Suppose we have a banana, we have a broccoli, or we have a cotton, any crop, you wheat or whatever that you take it into. Anything needs extending their shelf life. That is, I can keep this product for 3 days without refrigeration, or 2 days, or 6 hours, or 10 hours. Now, that is determined by these elements made available to the soil, and then the crops gets it. That's the reason in last episode, we were talking about importance of soil testing. Now, in the soil test results, we have got these details, how much of these are available in the soil. Now, if you refer in the chart, I would have mentioned a barrel. That barrel indicating what is available and what should be made to available for the optimum performance of the crop. I'm going to take a little more time on this because it's very important. See, that is the reason I'm going to stress at every little things. It is not just, you take some random sampling, send it to the laboratory and get some details. Doesn't make any sense. You have to really put balanced food for them in the soil depending on what type of a crop. Why am I saying what type of a crop? Say cereals. Now, cereal means you all know paddy, wheat, jowar, any of these things come under cereals. Cereals demand more of a phosphorus. That's the reason I said crop specific to address them. Or if you take capsicum, broccoli, cabbage, cotton, tomato, they require more of a potash. So that means crop specifically it has to be addressed, not randomizing the soil. That is not just applying blanket method of putting some NPK and without knowing. And I'm very sure many of you are not adding secondary nutrients, micronutrients. We are not adding it properly to balance it. So if you really take an example of zinc and copper, these two are needed by us also. Now you are all very much aware how much of zinc is needed now for this immunity improving. Now, every Tom and Dick and Harry talk about immunity because of this coronavirus. Now, this immunity improvement comes from zinc. How do you get zinc? It has to be in the food chain to have built in. That is much more better assimilation than swallowing a tablet. But how do the crop get zinc? You have to apply it in the soil. Now, how do you apply it? You have to understand to test the soil properly. That is the reason I said the importance of soil testing. So this is one of our, out of 5 karmas, this is another important karma which we have to do in farming. Testing of soil for complete analysis. Now, let me say about 2 things in the soil analysis. Positive and negative. Everywhere this positive and negative ions are there, like male and female. So, every organism has these 2 differentiation. That is, positive and negative. In the soil, we'll talk about positive ions are called calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium. Now, these, I just mentioning it, the names, don't get excited or don't get confused with these words. But you have to understand these are all required for your crop maximum performance. Calcium, magnesium, potash, and sodium are positively charged. You all know soil is negatively charged. Negatively charged. That means like forces ripples, unlike forces attracts. Male and female attracted, and female fight. Male and male fight. This is the law of energy, right? This is a simple thing. We all know that. If a girl laughs at you, you are very happy. But if another person comes, you get wild. So the soil is also that way. You have to understand it in that way. They're positive and negative. Soil is negatively charged. So this positively charged get attached to this negatively charged soil. This negative charged soil is called clay particles. This is what we determine in our soil test, how much of the percentage that this soil can hold. You see, that's very important. How much I can assimilate. See, in my blood test, if you look at me, in my blood test, doctor would tell me, you can only take so much of fat, so much of, doctor will tell you, don't eat this, only take a good protein, etc., etc. Similarly, the soil also has that capacity to hold on to some nutrients. Okay, now there are negatively charged ions. You see, now when I talk about positive, there is also negatives. Like you take the negative ions, they repel, like ammonia, urea, boron, all these materials are negatively charged. That means negative and negative repel. Repel means they don't stay in the soil. In other words, we cannot build up their levels. You see, you have to keep some level in the soil for crop to eat. But these are migrating away because negative and negative repels. So they run away. They don't stay. That means we have to add year after year, little by little, as the crop takes in these material. That is called, your urea, ammonia, these material, sulfur. These are all negative and negative of soil, repelling them. Repel means they are, pushing it away. So they keep moving. Please understand little by little. If I'm not confusing, God's sake, I want to put it in a very simple for you. When they are repelling, there is every chance that good amount of rain can wash away this material to the lowest level somewhere. Whereas positive charged ion of calcium and magnesium and potash, all these material can be stored. That means you can keep adding them and they will not run away. They get attached to the clay particles because clay is negative. These are positive. Unlike forces attract. So they are attracted and binded, kept there. In that point for you to digest it. We'll come back on the soil organic matter. Now everybody talks about organic. Good. Organic matter is not a nutrient valid material. By saying that, it's a very essential element or essential soil amendment, you see. I can't say in our food, rice is bad or wheat is bad. You need them at certain quantity in a bulk. but not too much. Otherwise, you will either end up with diabetes or with other all sorts of ailments. We don't know. But anyhow, too much is not good. Similarly, organic matter we are adding for the purpose to hold nutrient and water. That means they are going to act as a soil negatively charged material. So by testing the soil only, you will understand whether that soil has enough clay. Otherwise, I have to add more of an organic matter to act as a clay, because I want somebody to sit there to, all the materials applied or hold, and the root can eat, not run away. So organic matter plays an amendment role of working as holding the nutrient and water, not for any other purpose. But this is a very essential purpose. Unfortunately, we all think organic matter contains a lot of nutrients. Let me go little bit on that, but not too much. Unless until cow eats well with all the minerals and nutrients, then what it gives will have some nutrient value. Please remember, cow is not your fertilizing factory. Cow is an animal wanting to live. So it eats whatever you give. And most of our cows are underfed. They are not very well fed. So they eat whatever available. So what they eat, they try to convert it for their own metabolic functions. So that means half of the nutrient is already gone. And the remaining for the milk or for the kid. Now the balance is thrown away as a dung. How do you expect that dung to be so nutritive that you can get a crop? So that it can act only as a soil input to hold water and nutrients to some extent. And that's an essential component for your soil balancing. Now let's move on to, we talked about mobile and immobile. That is clay holding negative and positive, and the other one is rippling. Now this rippling material, it is convenient for us to have it run through a water. Whenever you are irrigating during the cropping stage, you can apply this little by little and plant will start eating them. So there is no wastage. That means bulk application of nitrogen, which is practiced all over India, is actually wastage of that valuable plant food and polluting the lakes and rivers. So what we have to really do is apply them little by little during the cropping stage so that they get consumed and converted into produces instead of applying it in bulk. Now, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, potash, all these elements we are applying on top of the soil for the crop to absorb. Please understand this negative and positive. Why I am stressing on that? Because negatively charged soil can hold this material wherever you have applied. You see, you have applied it on surface, so they hold it at the surface. It is not run through the root, but the root is buried underneath. We are going to show a placement tool. The placement tool which we are showing you on the screen is a tool used to fix the material depending on your soil analysis, what type of a material, etc., is placed exactly at the root zone. Wherever the root goes, they will be intercepting these soil inputs and they get absorbed. By placement of fertilizer in bands, the fertilizer use efficiency is jumped up to 75%. Say, for example, you are putting 100 kilos of DAP or potash on the surface. The plant utilizes only 5 kilo. Whereas if you place it in band using this tool, fertilizer placement tool, they consume around 75 kilos. So you are actually putting 100 kilo and the crop gets only 5 kilos and performance drops down. Your 70 kilo is wasted for that crop. It may be available or it may be washed away to the rains. The reason why placement plays a very vital role in fertilization is immobile and mobile elements. That is cation, anion. In my chart, I have just mentioned those elements. That means you will understand by looking at those chart that positively charged material have to be placed. or have to be incorporated into the soil and never apply them on the surface. I hope after this video being watched, you will not apply this material on the surface, because it is not going to help you in any way. On the contrary, it is going to only create environmental havoc. So we turn around and say these materials are poison. Actually, it's not. It's the materials are misused rather. Say, for example, you have never driven a Ferrari car. Suppose you have only driven a tractor, and I give you a Ferrari car without letting you know how to operate it. What happens to it? You are going to kill yourself and kill a couple of others on the road. Do you say Ferrari is bad? So you have to understand how to use this Ferrari. It's a wonderful car, but if you don't know how to use it, then it's a garbage and it's going to pollute it. Similarly, soil amendments are nothing but plant food. You have to understand how to give it to the plant for their optimum performance. Now I'm going to conclude this in this way. Strongest, healthiest, and most nutritious crops are grown in soil where the soil has got all the 13 plus elements, which I have mentioned it in the chart, in a very well balanced manner for each and individual crop. You cannot randomize it. Please remember, the soil analysis of one village or one firqa can handle one soil analysis. No way. If you take an example, one blood test, say in your family, if you have 6 people, and is it enough that you take one sample and say all the 6 can given the same medicine because all belong to same family? No way. Each, whether it is your son or a father, it has to differ. Each has to take individual tests. Similarly, you have to take individual soil sample for all this analysis and balance it for its optimum performance. Say, for example, if the calcium is more in a particular, the soil is loose. If the magnesium is more, it is tighter. Now, I'm going to talk about little on oxygen and air. I'm going to say all these details in my irrigation segment little later, because irrigation is also looking after this segment, but in the soil also it takes care of it, oxygen and air. Oxygen and air is also very, very essential element for the performance of the crop. High calcium of the soil will have more oxygen and drain freely, support more aerobic breakdown of organic matters, support more aerobic breakdown. I'm not using strong words, I hope, for you to understand, but you have to, you have to understand these basic things. Don't go in depth and confusing yourself with all my words, please. I want you to understand that air is needed, there is oxygen is needed for the crop. Why? Only at the root zone, when the oxygen is present, the root can eat. You can understand it that way. Without oxygen, the root cannot eat, even the food is available. That means the oxygen has to be made available. How do you make it? The soil has to be porous, porosity. They call it porosity. That is, it can flow like a beautiful structure. We go back a little on the previous episodes, link a little bit saying of land preparation. See how important that we talked about land preparation is now helping us in this fertilizer utilization. If the fertilizer, what you have applied is to have to be consumed by the crop, there has to be enough oxygen. That means it has to have a more porous soil. More porous soil, more oxygen, then it is better that soil contains all these nutrients and the crop is optimal performance is achieved. I'm going to say few more on this soil, because I'm just stressing more on the soil. After the land preparation, the next highest marks will go to the soil balancing and analysis. We are going to say during your land preparation, when you are collecting the soil, how it is important that the depth of the soil on which you are collecting and sending it to the laboratory, how vital it is all understood, because the previous episode explained to you all that in depth, in details. Similarly, you have to understand when you are applying it through band, when you are applying it at certain distance and certain quantity of material, depending on the soil test, is run through this fertilizer placement tool, which is attached to a tractor-driven tool operated through hydraulic system up and down, and simple gadget. It can drop, pre-measured. Say you want to apply 2.5 grams of some material per foot. I mean, you don't have to do any calculation or that. The machine is doing everything. You just dump this material and it is placing at the root zone. When you are doing the soil land preparation, this part is taken care and applied there itself before even seeding. These materials are immobile. Now you know what are the materials immobile, and now with your soil analysis which you got received from the laboratory, what is the quantity that it is available. Always remember, calcium should be around 65%. Like us, we depend on so much of calcium, otherwise we all droop down. Without calcium, our bones can't be erect. We can't, be an erect body. If you have to be really erect, not hunching back, the calcium is essential. Now, this calcium is also needed for the crop to stand up, not droop down. And calcium in the plant, it is in a form of a cell, calcium pectate. So now those materials are absorbed through your soil. So you have to make sure that this is available at a certain levels and certain quantity. I think the soil, I think I'm willing to listen to more of your questions. I don't want to push it more. I think I'll hold on to this till I get some questions on this. I'm sure, everybody is confused and a lot of questions are there. I'll stop this with the soil analysis now. We'll get into the next episode, which will be talking about the irrigation. And thank you very much, Harsha, for this.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for spending the valuable time for the education of all the farmers who would really get benefited out of this episode. And yes, there would be several questions which would be coming up, and we would make a new episode, Q&A episode on the episode 2, and we'll try to answer all of your questions. So please, farmers, ensure you put up your comments, questions, or any suggestion on this episode, and we will come back to you with this new episode. Thank you so much. Have a great day.